Ji-hyun comes from a poor family, so she takes a part-time job to make a living. However, on her very first day at work, she makes a serious mistake. As a parking attendant at a shopping mall, she accidentally treats a VIP customer as an ordinary guest. The car, which had already driven past, suddenly stops again at the intersection. Inside is Suho, a rich second-generation heir, who coldly gestures without even looking at her. Ji-hyun hurriedly runs over, nervously bowing and crouching to assist. After checking the license plate, Ji-hyun realizes that this is actually a VIP client of the mall. She had guided him in the wrong direction earlier, so she immediately apologizes. However, Suho deliberately ignores her and refuses to respond, completely dismissing her presence. Ji-hyun freezes for a moment, then forces a bright smile onto her face and uses a full set of polite hand gestures to welcome him properly. Just as the car starts moving again, her colleague mutters a complaint. Only then does Ji-hyun realize that the microphone on her uniform hasn't been turned off. Clearly, Suho hears everything. Furious, Suho storms out of the car, thinking that Ji-hyun insulted him on purpose. Her colleague rushes over to explain, but Suho rudely shoves her to the ground. Seeing her colleague injured, the usually reasonable Ji-hyun finally stands up to argue with the unreasonable Suho. This only fuels his anger. He kicks the nearby road barrier so hard that it flies away. At that moment, the mall manager rushes over and immediately scolds Ji-hyun, demanding that she apologize at once. It turns out that Suho is not only an important VIP, but also the second son of the group's chairman. If this incident isn't handled properly, everyone there, including the manager, could lose their jobs. To avoid dragging her colleagues into trouble, Ji-hyun has no choice but to apologize. However, the arrogant young master is still not satisfied. Under pressure from the manager, Ji-hyun is forced to kneel in front of Suho and beg for his forgiveness. Seeing her kneeling on the ground, Suho finally feels that he may have gone too far. He mutters a few words to comfort himself and leaves. But the incident doesn't end there. Someone records Ji-hyun kneeling and uploads it online. The video quickly goes viral, causing a huge backlash. Negative news leads to a sharp drop in the group's stock price. Furious, the chairman harshly reprimands Suho and questions whether he is acting out because he is dissatisfied with the marriage his father arranged for him. Suho doesn't dare to say a word and only promises that he will handle the situation himself. Later, Suho finds Ji-hyun. True to his rich kid style, he directly pulls out a large sum of money and tries to use it to silence her. He believes that Ji-hyun deliberately knelt down, spread the photos online, and did it all just for money. Ji-hyun, despite her poor background, deeply despises this kind of behavior. She explains that she only knelt to protect her colleagues, not for money. She firmly states what she truly wants. Suddenly, Ji-hyun felt dizzy. He staggered, then collapsed and lost consciousness. Suho checked him and realized he wasn't pretending, so she hurriedly sent him to the hospital. While trying to find Suho's phone to notify his family, Ji-hyun noticed the large sum of money in his pocket. She hadn't accepted it earlier, and she certainly wouldn't take it now. Remembering Suho's terrible attitude, she stuffed the money back into his pocket and prepared to leave. However, seeing the other patients lying helplessly in nearby beds, Ji-hyun couldn't bring herself to go. She turned back and stayed. When Suho finally woke up, the doctor delivered devastating news. He had late-stage brain cancer and had at most 6 months left to live. The news hit Suho like a bolt from the blue. As he left the hospital, he ran into Ji-hyun again, who had come to return the money. But Suho had no energy to argue anymore. Ji-hyun insisted on giving the money back, saying she still needed to work and couldn't keep it forever. Before she could finish, Suho silently walked away. Back in his car, Suho finally dropped his tough facade. A flood of complex emotions overwhelmed him: fear, anxiety, and despair with nowhere to vent. He resented the unfairness of fate. Why, at just 20 years old, must he face death? He was a top wealthy heir in the country, living a life filled with endless boredom, eating, socializing, business dinners, and maintaining appearances. Even when celebrating his fiancée Chaya's birthday, his secretary prompted him at every step. For the marriage arranged by his father, Suho pretended to say, "I love you," and personally put a necklace on Chaya. But everything he did was merely for the cameras. Once the reporters left, he dropped the act completely and violently smashed the wine glass onto the floor. Ji-hyun and Chaya actually shared the same birthday. Yet the way they celebrated that day couldn't have been more different. Ji-hyun was overjoyed just to receive a simple birthday gift from her boyfriend, Min-suk. When Min-suk suggested postponing their wedding so they could work toward a better life, the kind-hearted Ji-hyun agreed without hesitation. That same evening, Chaya received a call from Suho. Full of anticipation, she went straight to Suho's house. But when the door opened, what greeted her was a woman in red pajamas, her face pale and weary. Struggling to accept what she was seeing, Chaya walked inside. The room was in complete disarray. Suho lay on the bed, drunk out of his mind and completely unconscious. Faced with this scene, Chaya couldn't even begin to process what had happened. As Suho's fiancée, a powerful sense of humiliation, heartbreak, and anger overwhelmed her. Disappointed and wounded, she turned and walked out of the room. In the corridor, the woman in red quickly followed after her, clearly sensing Chaya's embarrassment. She hurriedly explained that nothing had happened, insisting that she and Suho were innocent. And in truth, she wasn't lying. After learning that she had a terminal illness, Suho had been drowning in sorrow and despair. All he wanted that night was someone to keep him company, someone to drink with until he forgot everything. The woman even laughed lightly and said, "Your fiancé probably doesn't want to marry you at all." Those words stabbed directly into Chaya's deepest wound. Enraged, Chaya raised her handbag and struck the woman in red again and again. Suho had already been indifferent to her because their relationship was a family-arranged marriage. Now even a lowly hostess dared to mock her. The woman in red, needing the money, could only endure the abuse in silence. Still not satisfied, Chaya pulled out a thick wad of cash and flung it at her in humiliation, declaring that whatever she said didn't matter because everything could be solved with money. With that, Chaya stormed away in fury. As she walked down the hallway, she noticed that her bag was stained with blood. Without giving it much thought, she tossed it into a nearby trash bin. Back inside the room, the woman in red quietly wiped away her tears. She no longer cared about the beating she had just endured. Unsteadily, she walked toward the pool, completely unaware that danger was moments away. She reached into the pool to collect the scattered money. Suddenly, dizziness overwhelmed her. Her vision darkened, her body went limp, and she collapsed into the water. The woman's name was Ji-hyun. She had once been a gentle, well-behaved girl. Though her family was poor, she shared a bunk bed with her sister Ji-yoon, sometimes arguing over trivial things like alarm clocks. Despite that, Ji-hyun had loved her dearly and cooked different meals for her every day. Unfortunately, they had a mother addicted to gambling. She lost every bit of the family's savings and accumulated massive debt. Creditors came knocking again and again, leaving the family barely surviving on Ji-hyun's modest income. This time, their mother even stole the 10 million won June had been holding for Suho, and lost every cent of it gambling. With the house on the verge of being seized by debt collectors, Ji-yoon, who was still a student, was forced to work to help repay the debt. Back at Suho's house, after calling out several times with no response, Suho suddenly sensed something was wrong. He rushed to the pool and pulled Ji-hyun out. But it was already too late. Ji-hyun had no pulse. At that moment, a man who worked as a lawyer for a wealthy family happened to arrive. When he saw the body, he froze in shock. The woman lying there was Ji-hyun's younger sister. He stared at Suho in disbelief. Suho, still overwhelmed by shock and guilt, stood frozen, unable to understand how someone who was alive just yesterday could die in his own home. When Ji-hyun received the news, she rushed over immediately. The moment she saw her sister's lifeless body, her entire world collapsed. Ji-hyun breaks down in unbearable pain. She never imagined that the sister she cherished more than anything would leave her so suddenly, without any warning. As Ji-hyun sobs uncontrollably, her boyfriend Min-suk stands nearby, his expression complicated. His thoughts drift back to the crime scene, where he noticed something familiar, June's hairpin. It was the very same one that had previously been taken away by Chaya during her engagement fitting. At that moment, Min-suk seems to realize something, but he chooses to remain silent. Soon after, Ji-eun's body is taken away by the police, and Suho is brought in for questioning as well. However, the moment Suho sat inside the police car, he was asked to step back out and told he was free to go home. It was obvious, this was the power of wealth. Someone behind the scenes had already taken care of everything. At the crime scene, Min-suk and his superior were summoned by the chairman. The chairman asked for their opinion on the case. Based on the hairpin found at the scene, Min-suk had already guessed that the incident was connected to Chaya. But when facing the chairman's interrogation, he chose his words carefully. He suggested that the victim suffered a head injury and speculated that Suho, after drinking, may have struck Ji-hyun by accident. Disoriented, Ji-hyun could have fallen into the pool and drowned, while Suho, drunk at the time, might not remember what he did. After hearing Min-suk's analysis, the chairman calmly took out 2 checks and instructed them to resolve the matter as quickly and quietly as possible. The amounts written on the checks were staggering. Later, Min-suk sought out Chaya, Suho's fiancée. He showed her the item found at the scene and asked whether she had been there that night. Chaya immediately denied it. Min-suk told her that he only wanted to know what truly happened that night, but Chaya remained evasive. On his way home, Min-suk struggled with his conscience. On one side was Ji-hyun, the woman he had loved for many years. On the other was wealth and power within easy reach. He asked himself, what choice should he make? Meanwhile, Ji-hyun's world continued to collapse. Her younger sister had died unexpectedly while still in school. Their mother disappeared entirely to avoid debt collectors, not even attending Ji-hyun's funeral. Even worse, Ji-hyun could not afford her sister's burial expenses. As if that weren't enough, Min-suk, her boyfriend of many years, chose to walk away after witnessing all of this. Left with nothing, Min-suk once again approached Chaya. He told Chaya that immediately after the incident, he had checked the surveillance footage and discovered that Chaya had entered and exited Suho's room that night. He then produced a USB drive and explained that the original surveillance data had been deleted. This was the only remaining copy. Faced with undeniable evidence, Chaya was forced to admit that she was at the scene that night and that she struck Ji-hyun's sister on the head. At that moment, Min-suk finally understood the truth. Ji-hyun's younger sister had been beaten and killed by Chaya. Panicked and helpless, Chaya asked Min-suk what she should do. Min-suk told her that he would handle everything. Back at the police station, when officers asked Suho whether anyone else had been present that night, he recalled calling Chaya and asking her to come over so he could tell her he could not go through with the marriage. But he chose not to tell the police this. Later, Suho confronted Chaya directly, asking whether she went to his house after receiving the call. Chaya pretended to remain calm and denied everything. Suho was left speechless. After all, he knew he himself had never treated Chaya kindly. Suho's secretary then brought in privately gathered information about Ji-hyun's family. Suho crumpled the document and threw it aside. After the secretary left, Suho slowly unfolded the paper again. His eyes froze. He never expected that Ji-hyun's younger sister would be Ji-hyun. The next day, Ji-hyun received a notice from the police stating that her sister had died by suicide due to intoxication. Such a conclusion was completely unacceptable to her. Furious, Ji-hyun stormed into the police station. The police handed over Ji-hyun's phone, explaining that before her death, Ji-hyun had left behind a drafted but unsent text message. Ji-hyun was shaken. She begged the officers to reopen the investigation, but they only urged her to calm down. At that moment, the police chief happened to pass by. Ji-hyun clung to him like a drowning person grasping the last lifeline. She cried and pleaded, begging them not to stop investigating her sister's death. She even knelt in front of him. Cold and indifferent, the chief shook her off and walked away with his entourage. This heartbreaking scene was witnessed by Suho, who had just arrived. Seeing Ji-hyun collapsed on the floor in tears reminded him of his own childhood. When his mother died, he had felt the same despair. With no other options left, Ji-hyun sought out Min-suk, pleading with him to help investigate her sister's death. She firmly believed her sister would never commit suicide. But Min-suk told Ji-hyun that her sister had truly committed suicide. Before leaving, he handed her a business card and said, "If you find this person, you'll know the truth." Following the address on the card, Ji-hyun tracked down a man known as Hwang, a shady-looking man with dyed hair. Hwang told her that her sister had once come to him because of her special line of work, and that someone had been guiding her behind the scenes. Completely disheartened, Ji-hyun returned to the mortuary to see her sister one last time. The staff there told her that a man had just come by and taken Ji-hyun's personal belongings. Ji-hyun immediately ran outside, thinking it might be Min-suk, but there was no one in sight. Hidden in a nearby corner, Soo-ho watched silently. The belongings taken away, Ji-hyun's organs, were sent for transplant. And those organs were destined for someone else. Soo-ho's father. Ji-hyun tried calling Min-suk again, but he deliberately avoided her calls. At that very moment, Min-suk was standing before the chairman, handing over a filled-out check. When the chairman saw the amount written on it, even he was stunned. 100 billion won. This was perhaps the most tragic fate imaginable for a woman. Her younger sister died mysteriously in a swimming pool. Her boyfriend of 6 years, Min-suk, who handled the pool incident, abandoned her, aligned himself with the wealthy heiress Cha-ya, and shamelessly wrote an astronomical figure on the blank check given by the chairman. Money and power, he gained both. On the other side, although Ji-hyun's death was officially ruled a suicide under the chairman's influence, Soo-ho still could not shake his doubts. He didn't know whether he was truly a murderer. From a distance, Soo-ho continued to watch Ji-hyun in silence. Every time he saw Ji-hyun break down in private, screaming and crying in despair, Soo-ho's guilt grew heavier. Knowing he didn't have much time left to live, Soo-ho visited his mother's grave. Perhaps because of the kindness buried deep in his heart, he decided that before he died, he must uncover the truth. He hired professionals to restore the erased CCTV footage. The surveillance appeared to have been wiped clean, and even after recovery attempts, nothing suspicious was found. What Soo-ho didn't know was that this was all Min-suk's arrangement. The CCTV technician had already been bribed. The man with dyed hair, Hwang, was also planted by Min-suk. Even the unsent suicide message found on Ji-hyun's phone was part of Min-suk's plan. And the only remaining copy of the surveillance footage, the USB Ji-hyun once held, had already been thrown into the sea by Cha-ya. Ji-hyun refused to believe that her sister had committed suicide. After intense inner struggle, she decided to continue pursuing the case on her own. But the moment she hung up after calling the police, Min-suk immediately received word of her actions. He had eyes everywhere. Ji-hyun watched helplessly as her sister's body was taken away by the police. Behind everything, every manipulation, every cover-up, Ji-hyun personally witnessed the autopsy. As the forensic doctor cut into her sister's body, she suppressed her terror and grief, waiting desperately for the final conclusion. The case was closed. The forensic report stated that her sister had suffered only minor head injuries and drowned while intoxicated. It was obvious. This result was entirely manufactured by Min-suk. Although Ji-hyun could not accept it, she had no power to fight back. In the end, she was forced to accept the verdict. After cremating her sister's remains, Ji-hyun returned home alone, utterly broken. There, she found a middle-aged man cooking noodles in the kitchen. He calmly told her that her mother had already mortgaged the house to him. Looking at the documents he presented, Ji-hyun finally understood the full extent of her mother's betrayal. Not only had she left behind massive debt and skipped her daughter's funeral, she had even sold the house. Ji-hyun began packing her belongings to leave. As she did, she came across a gift Ji-hyun had prepared for her, a necklace she had planned to give her on her birthday. Ji-hyun clutched it tightly, tears streaming down her face. Just as she was about to leave, the man blocked the doorway and spoke shamelessly. He told her that if she had nowhere to go, she could stay and live with him. After being kicked and injured by Ji-hyun, the middle-aged man still refuses to let her go and continues chasing her. At that moment, Soo-ho suddenly appears and blocks his way. With nowhere left to go, Ji-hyun sits by the roadside. She takes out the birthday gift her sister gave her and stares at it quietly. The happy moments of the past feel as if they happened just yesterday. For the first time in a long while, a faint smile appears on her face, but as she smiles, tears begin to fall uncontrollably. Suho, unable to leave her alone, watches silently from inside his car. Jihyun walks alone in the rain, letting it soak her face. The world is so vast, yet she has nowhere to go. Cars speed past her, splashing water as they rush by. Her sister is gone. Her mother has disappeared. At that moment, Jihyun feels that she has no place left in this world. Sensing that something is wrong, Suho gets out of the car, pushes through the heavy traffic, and suddenly pulls Jihyun into her arms. Suho has also changed. He knows that with the little time he has left, the only thing he wants to do is protect the person right in front of him. Jihyun is confused by this sudden concern. Suho, of course, cannot tell her the real reason behind it, so he makes up an excuse to explain his actions. With that, the first part of the series comes to an end. Please like, drop a heart and subscribe for part 2. See you next time.